live at Universal Studios today in Orlando, Florida, and earlier this week an exciting announcement was made that will bring Nintendo characters to the Universal theme parks and resorts. This is not the first time, however, that Nintendo and Universal have had a history, and back in the 1980s, their history might not have been quite so positive.
In 1981, Nintendo released the arcade game Donkey Kong. One of the company's first major successes, it featured two of its most famous characters, the titular gorilla and a man in red overalls and a red hat, then simply known as Jumpman. After the game became highly successful, it didn't go unnoticed by Universal Studios that the plot of the game, a woman being kidnapped by a gorilla, was similar to that of one of their most famous films.
It's interesting to note that this week Universal made announcements to bring both King Kong and Donkey Kong to its parks. Of course, when Donkey Kong was first created by Nintendo, it caused quite a stir with Universal as Nintendo's ape was aping theirs.
In 1982, Coleco was planning on releasing their ColecoVision console with a copy of Donkey Kong. They were contacted by Universal under the guise of an investment opportunity. Once the meeting began, however, it was clear that it was about the threat of a lawsuit. Universal was claiming copyright infringement. Coleco, eager to avoid any obstacles to releasing their ColecoVision console, quickly agreed to pay Universal 3% of net profits. Universal also successfully collected money from several of Nintendo's other partners. Nintendo themselves, however, were having none of Universal's monkey business. Nintendo went to court with Universal and won. Turned out, in 1975, Universal had sued RKO, claiming that King Kong was in the public domain and that therefore Universal didn't have to pay them for it. The judge ruled, first, Universal didn't own King Kong. Second, even if it did, Donkey Kong wasn't a copy of King Kong. And third, even if it was, it would be considered parody, which is legal. Representing Nintendo in the case was a hotshot trial lawyer named John Kirby, a man the company would later honor by naming one of their beloved characters after him.
Now, Universal is no stranger to the video game industry. Back in 1982, the video game E.T., released for the Atari 2600, became one of the most infamous games in history, ultimately leading to the video game industry crash of 1983.
Created in only 5.5 weeks, E.T. is frequently cited as a contributing factor to Atari's massive financial losses of 1983 and 1984. As a result of overproduction and returns, millions of unsold cartridges were buried in an Alamogordo, New Mexico landfill. Those cartridges were unearthed in the spring of 2014.
We found something.
After more than 30 years of speculation and hours upon hours of digging, history was made. Hollywood film crews dug into an Alamogordo landfill in hopes of uncovering the widely criticized 1982 video game E.T.
Will you be the one to witness the birth of the incredible Nintendo Entertainment System?
When the industry did recover a few years later, it would be Nintendo that would reap the benefits. Its NES and SNES systems would remain on top of the console wars for the next decade. During that time, collaborations with Universal would occur, with NES and SNES games based on Back to the Future and Jurassic Park, among other Universal properties.
While Universal would decidedly lose that lawsuit against Nintendo, later in the 1990s, their character, Crash Bandicoot, would help Sony put their PlayStation on the map and decidedly knock Nintendo out of first place in the video game industry.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
Pack up your stuff. I got a little surprise for you here.
Check it out. What do you think about that? We got real-time, 3D, lush organic environments. How's that make you feel, buddy?
Feel a little like your days are numbered?
I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
You're hurting my elbow.
With games featuring Universal Interactive's characters like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon, Sony's PlayStation outsold Nintendo's N64 by a wide margin. By the time the next generation of video game consoles rolled around, however, Universal was no longer working exclusively with Sony. Crash Bandicoot games also appeared on Microsoft's Xbox and Nintendo's GameCube. During this time, Nintendo and Universal's theme parks came together when the Universal Studios Theme Park Adventure was released for the Nintendo GameCube. The game was not well received. IGN gave it 3 out of 10, with reviews saying that it has terrible graphics and is very boring. UGO has rated the game number 78 on their list of the worst video games of all time. NGC Magazine UK gave the game 24 out of 100, where it remained the lowest rated GameCube game in the magazine's history before being topped by Batman Dark Tomorrow.
So the home of Jurassic Park and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter may soon be home to Super Mario and all his friends. It's unknown yet exactly where Nintendo World will lie, but speculation and speculation alone suggests that the Disney-owned Marvel Superhero Island may soon be coming to a close. Of course, Universal Studios would be very smart to hold on to that property for as long as possible to prevent Disney from using Marvel in any of their theme parks. As of 2015, Nintendo has been falling behind in the console wars, behind both Sony and Microsoft. Universal also is in second place behind Disney for its theme park standing, so only time will tell if this partnership will bring great things for both companies.